Hi, I'm Sam Peterson.
And I'm Claire Skelly.
And we spent like 5 minutes trying to come up with a snappy name, but we couldn't. So this is our podcast. Our first news story is entitled, Obama Confident Gun Control Moves Will Be Legal. Essentially, the gist of this article is that Obama is trying to bypass Congress with an executive order regarding gun control. Obama told a group of reporters, and I quote, "These are not only recommendations that are well within my legal authority and the executive branch, but they are also ones that the overwhelming majority of the American people, including gun owners, support and believe in." This is interesting that Obama's saying that a majority of American people will be happy with what he's about to put forth, because we've heard so many Republican presidential candidates saying that Obama's ignoring the Second Amendment, that he's ignoring our freedoms and things like that. So I hope that what Obama has to say actually will speak to the majority of the American people as he said it will. Even though Obama might partially satisfy most Americans, we have heard statements from Hillary Clinton saying that she thinks that Obama's executive action is going to fall short of any comprehensive reform that's favored by most Democrats, especially the extremely liberal ones who are really tough on guns. So we've talked a lot about agenda setting in class, and Obama, possibly even more than in administering an executive order, what he's doing with this, especially telling the public that he's going to do it beforehand, is he's setting the political agenda. He's getting people to talk about guns, which I think is really important because especially after the last San Bernardino shooting, no one really talked about guns. We mostly talked about terrorism. And so I think that it's fantastic, and Obama's really using that agenda-setting role of the president really well in terms of talking about this executive order before even putting it forth.
This past week, protesters in Oregon, who happened to be farmers, held up a federal wildlife refuge and said they were not budging until the government addresses their demands. Eamon Bundy, the co-leader of the self-styled Citizens for Constitutional Freedom, said that, "We feel we have exhausted all prudent measures and have been ignored. They want the U.S. government to remove its unlawful presence in this country." Bundy's group seized the government property after splintering off from a larger protest about ranchers' rights in the small town of Burns. No government employees were at the site at the time because of the holidays. It wasn't clear how many people had occupied the building, but those inside have asked for others to join them in several videos posted online. This article relates to American citizens' interpretation of the Constitution and the government. Conservatives tend to interpret the Constitution very strictly, taking every word literally. Liberals tend to view it loosely, taking into consideration that we live in a different society than the one that existed in the 1780s and 90s. It is common knowledge that conservatives are against big government, that is, the government playing a large role in the life of the American people. Liberal ideology includes wanting the federal government to play a large role in the life of the people, regulating and monitoring certain things. There has been a lot of conflict between both political parties about the role of the federal government. These protesters' demands line up with classic conservative ideology.
The title of our third article reads, "Birth control pill is now available in Oregon and California without a prescription." So the article is pretty self-explanatory. Essentially, in Oregon, effective January 1st, women 18 or older can get birth control as essentially an over-the-counter drug. In California, the law goes to effect in March. Only in California, there are no age restrictions at all. So any woman, regardless of age, can go to a drugstore and have access to birth control. Also in effect with this law are new license required to be a pharmacist, which will require them to take part in training in terms of advising women on what type of birth control they should be taking. So pharmacists will now be trained to give women advice so that they're not just buying these over-the-counter drugs without the proper knowledge. When we talked about federalism in class, we talked about Colorado being used as a testing ground for the legalization of marijuana. And I think that's what this bill is going to end up doing to California and Oregon, that we will serve as a testing ground for the entire country in terms of this treating birth control as an over-the-counter drug. So hopefully, if all goes well, this will be something that the entire country will feel confident in adopting. And if not, well, maybe we'll see the effects from Colorado and the marijuana bill before we, and then see if those work out for the entire country. And if they do, maybe we'll have a better prediction of whether this bill will work out for the entire country.
And now for our editorial. Okay, our editorial this week comes from the New York Times. It is titled, "Is the Drive for Success Making Our Children Sick?" by Vicki Abels. The editorial focuses on a pediatrician and professor at the St. Louis University School of Medicine named Stuart Slavin. He worked in cooperation with Irvington High School in Fremont, California. He looked at students and, using two standard measures, searched for symptoms of depression and anxiety. The results were stunning. 54% of students showed moderate to severe symptoms of depression. More alarming, 80% suffered moderate to severe symptoms of anxiety. Here is a quote from the editorial about the expectations surrounding education. On top of a 7-hour school day, our kids march through hours of nightly homework, daily sports practices, and band rehearsals, and weekend-consuming assignments and tournaments. Each activity is seen as a step on the ladder to a top college, an enviable job, and a successful life. Children living in poverty who aspire to college face the same daunting admissions arms race, as well as the burden of competing for scholarships, with less support than their privileged peers. Even those not bound for college are ground by the constant measurement in schools, under pressure to push through mountains of impersonal material as early as preschool.
So I found this op-ed really interesting because I actually wrote an essay a lot like this at the beginning of AP English last year. When we were asked to write about something we believe in, I wrote about how I believe that children are generally overworked terribly in high school and how we're expected to master so many things, but we're taught that mastery takes 10,000 hours through the book we were forced to read. And I just think that this op-ed really hit the nail on the head, talking about what's expected of students and how terrible the effects are, essentially.
I agree with Sam. Even younger kids are showing signs of serious mental illness because of the pressure that is put on them through school and extracurricular activities. The application process and stress that comes with getting into college in senior year does not help anything. I think that reform is needed to save our children from a life of stress.
Thanks for listening. We'll see you in class.
Bye-bye.